Black who's going to go for it. Black for the 1 point to win the grand final from Halifax, and he's done it. Ben Black strike.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Talking Facts of Life. We're actually doing a normal podcast, a traditional, shall we say, recorded podcast, but special times for special occasions. And given the small matter of the derby on the weekend, we thought we'd mix up a little bit and actually invite the enemy into our lair. We'll get to that in just a moment. As I say, this is Talking About Some Live, proudly sponsored by Clips
Energy!
Hell yes, and delivery. As always, my name's Mike A. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And to my left, or to your right, is Mr. Rick Farrell. How are you doing?
Good evening, I'm alright, mate. Are you? I'm excited for the big weekend of sport ahead.
Exactly, I am proper buzzing. And let's introduce our guests. First and foremost, let's get the niceties out of the way. A good old friend of mine, Fax fan, Mr. James Gosling. How are you doing, James?
Evening, Mike. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And unfortunately, we have to bring the tone down somewhat. You are never going to get an easy ride here. Never going to get an easy ride. For a Bradford fan, he's a northern fan, so that's probably the best type of Bradford fan. Mr. Andrew Foster. Thanks for joining.
Hello, gentlemen. Very pleased to be joining you today.
You are back up north, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I'm speaking from BD15. I'm in my dad's. I don't know what you'd call it. It used to be the dining room when I was a kid, but now he's set it up as where he just sort of camps out and watches Morecambe and Wise DVDs and what have you. So
it's not a shrine to all the Bulls past glories, then.
yeah. Opportunity to reminisce, yeah. but yeah, good to be back in Yorkshire. Looking forward to Sunday.
Definitely, it's definitely a special occasion to bring you up from London. As the I was going to say neutral, but you are the enemy this week. What are your thoughts on not just this week, but like Bradford Halifax derbys as well? Because we make no bones about it, Bradford is the game that we look forward to, and it's kind of like England-Germany. England absolutely hate Germany. Germany go, well, who are England? We hate Holland, and obviously Bradford, it's Leeds, isn't it? So, but what are your thoughts on Halifax Bradford derbies then?
Well, it's back is the main thing. It's back, So it went. So 1998, we lost at the. We lost home and away. But I think
just let that sink in.
But I genuinely think that was the last time we lost to you for about like 15, 16 years. Can't remember, and since Bradford have been relegated, then we didn't just sort of fall down to your level. We fell past your level and ended up in League One in the third tier. But now, yeah, exactly. But now it's back, and actually, the Championship is a pretty mad league, but I've quite enjoyed following it this season. Even elements of it have been pretty painful for Bradford, but there's all these sort of little tight. Obviously Toulouse Featherstone is a great contest, but Bradford Halifax for third, fourth. Looks really, at this stage, really exciting. Might be that we fall away. It's quite possible. It might be we get an hammer in at Halifax on Sunday. But if get me exclusive early. But if we don't, even whatever happens on Sunday, actually, there's a lot of rugby still to be played, and it's good that the Bradford Halifax derby is actually at the heart of it, and that rivalry's back up and running.
Yeah, for sure. One thing for certain, they're never boring games, aren't Bradford Halifax games at all. They're always full of blood, sweat, and tears, and all that sort of stuff. You were around in the 90s, James. You were there in the, shall we say, glory days of doing doubles over Bradford. As what Andrew just said, whetted your appetite for a bit more on Sunday.
Yeah, certainly. I unfortunately had the dubious privilege of going to school in Bradford with Andrew during the 90s, which was good in 96 and 98, but from '97 and onwards, it was a bit grim at times. Bradford interchange and welcome to the Bulls and welcome to Bradford, and a lot of Bulls fans. It was a grim place to be at times for us. But I think I just echo, as I looking back, like 96, 97, 98, some brilliant games, massive crowds. And then obviously we declined and fell into the Championship. But to have them back, I think the last 5 or 6 years has been great. And certainly the highlight of our season, I think you'd agree. And just even like the Bash games, obviously the quarter-final was brilliant. There's some cracking games, even going back to that first year when Tyra scored that winner down the Shay. I think it's brilliant to have them back. And our record's pretty good, isn't it? Like against Bradford last few years. But even that, because it's a derby game and like that game at Dewsbury, anything can happen. And that was a bonkers game. So who knows what. And that Good Friday game in 2 years ago, that was cracking as well. We should have, I think, the 26-12 up, and he would do something stupid and then ended up falling away. And
Morel went off and Rubber all tried to do a bit too much, didn't he? But as I say, that's in the past.
It's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? But form goes out the window at times in a derby game, and who turns up on the day, I suspect. So same on Sunday, see what happens. And both sides probably missing a few from what would be a first choice team, I suspect. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's great to have them back.
Definitely,
it's like him.
He's with no restrictions either as well. It's the perfect match to start off they were saying normal rugby league in terms of no restriction on spectators, no mass, all that sort of stuff. You can pay on the gate, season tickets are valid, all that sort of stuff. Because especially with Bradford games, there are a lot of people who think, I'll go along to that, because it does. There's lots of friends and families that do support both sides there, really, and because of the close proximity. Like you say, you went to school in Bradford, James. I work in Bradford now. It's a bit of a melting pot, so to speak. But what do you reckon, Rick?
Well, I mean, it's a derby, isn't it? And the reason that they get the name derby is because it's a special kind of atmosphere, and that's what a neutral wants. They want to see these games. They don't want to see us play, no offence to any of these teams, but like Oldham or Whitehaven, where they might bring 30 fans against your home crowd. You want one end filled with one fans, one end filled with the other. To bring it back to another sport, like I think Bradford City played Halifax Town in the FA Cup a few years ago, and that was a special kind of atmosphere that gets people going back to the ground. So I can't wait to see it. Like, you said that you went to school in Bradford. I lived in Bradford during Bullmaniac in a pub in Clayton, and the amount of stick that we used to get off them, that's probably grown my hatred of them over the years. But they are special games, the special atmospheres, and that's what you want to see in sport, especially after the year that we've had, the year and a half that we've had where nobody was there. To go from that to all of a sudden a real, what they're hoping will be a carnival atmosphere, is something that you want to pay your money for and you want to get down and see.
Yeah, you mentioned that game at Dewsbury, James. It was just so weird to have a Bradford Halifax game with no fans whatsoever, having to crowd round TV screens and laptops and tablets to watch a game. And it was just so surreal. And I even said to you on the weekend, Rick, I'd be so glad to see Bradford fans at the Shay. I never thought I'd say that, but literally looking across from the South Stand and seeing hopefully a fairly full North Stand full of Bradford fans with the atmosphere that they bring, it'll be absolutely brilliant. And it is a fairly friendly rivalry, and it's not kind of like the rivalry of Fev. To quote Partridge, it's classic banter that we have with them. If I can be Partridge for a sec, but yeah, it's
just
true.
For a sec. Every hour of every show we've ever done.
Yes, they call me the Yorkshire Partridge, but yeah, it goes back a long time. And what we thought we'd do with this podcast to kind of build excitement for this Sunday is to go revisit some of the incidents that have happened over the last 20, 30 years or so. I will bow to my elders for first one, because it's slightly before my time. But Andrew, you definitely had one that you wanted to bring up first, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it's funny. You were just saying that one thing that struck me then when you were talking about, like the rivalry. My uncle. So I was too young for I don't know if you ever heard of the Steam Pig fanzine.
Yeah.
But. So my uncle had all the back issues, and I read them when a little while later, and it was interesting reading that that they were saying the exact same things about Halifax as you've just been saying about Bradford, because as a kid, like, and I think I started watching, I started watching in '88, like started becoming sort of aware properly of what's going on in the '90s, at which point Wigan were just winning everything. And Halifax were the last Yorkshire team to have won all. I think, James, like your first sort of memories of basically going to Wembley and winning the title, isn't that right?
Yeah, my first year, I won the title. Second year, won the Challenge Cup. Third year, went to Wembley. It's been downhill ever since.
I bet you thought you were being spoiled. He's like
just think that was normal.
Yeah, it's like these Blackburn Rovers fans when they won the Premier League. When we're going to be up there forever, and how did that work out?
Yeah.
But no, it's crazy how things work out. As I say, like I grew up, and obviously you grew up with Wigan winning everything in the 90s, and no one came close to them really. We did have some derbies. I remember having really good derbies of Leeds at Put Thrum All and stuff. But I was a bit too young to remember, because no disrespect, Bradford weren't necessarily our biggest rivals at that time, really. I don't remember them being our radar. The first time that they were on my radar, and again, it's very, very pertinent, is the alleged merger that might have taken place between. I was part of the protests on the pitch where we made our own banner and stuff. Yeah.
Were you in the coffin, Aggie?
I was carrying a banner. I can't remember what the banner said, but I remember them being coffins and stuff. But it was like, I'd have been 6 or 7, I reckon. And I just thought, hang on, I'm an Halifax fan. Why do I want to be somewhere else?
I bet your banner were written in crayon then, wasn't it?
Possibly, yeah. You'd probably be able to read it. I've probably got the same handwriting as did back then, really. But obviously, you guys are slightly older and slightly wiser than myself. What were your guys' memories of that proposed merger from both sides of the coin?
Go on, Gos, you kick off.
I mean, I remember not having too much views on it. I mean, I remember I think it blew up Easter week, and there's a game at Good Friday at Odsall.
Yeah.
Where I think that was when Mark Preston's head got taken off by someone. But I remember just like the noise about it, and obviously we had quite a good team at that time. It was sort of the Bentley, Schuster, Preston, Carl Harrison team. So, and I remember like that. It's funny to think about that first Super League idea. There was 5 standalone teams, and 2 of them were Halifax and Bradford, Wigan, Leeds, and Saints were the other ones, which is absolutely crackers to think back that we were 2 of the 5 standalone teams.
Merge Warrington, merge all.
But not Bradford and Halifax. So I don't know. I think it was a shame. Obviously, the upshot of that we lost Gartland and we lost our money back, and then we've never got another one, have we? So that was all the main downside. And people like Aggie on the pitch with the coffin pushed him out. But, so it's your fault.
I'll take the blame. It's fine. Yeah, whatever. I can take
but
it.
30 years of decline. But it's an interesting one. I mean, my mergers have never worked here, have they? But I don't think they've ever given a proper chance. So I don't know. Andrew, what's your view on that?
I think it wouldn't have worked, but it could have worked. So I think that I just can't believe they would have done the legwork and the consultation and all the things that they needed to do to make it work. But if they had, then you've got Casely, who clearly had something, like there's no two ways about it, was able to keep the show on the road Bulls for like a decent length of time by rugby league standards. You had Peter Deakin. You had Gartland's money, and then the question is, well, how do you, at that game at Odsall in '95, they were handing out leaflets saying "Keep the Fax in Halifax," because people presume that this team, if it happened, would just play at Odsall. And I think you would have had to, if it's going to work, you would have had to have said, right, is there a place in Shelf? And I'd have gone as far to say, try and find somewhere where you could literally have the halfway line on the border between Bradford and Halifax.
That big roundabout, you can have it
there. Corners are optional, aren't they? Just get RFL dispensation. It's fine. Just keep
have a bit
it
of an
rolling
agreement
over
having
forever.
Halifax phone code and a BD postcode or whatever.
Yeah, well, but you would have had to. I think that's the only way a merger is going to work is if you sell it to the people that you need to. If you're saying, look, I think what would have happened is it would have ended up being a Bradford team. By the way, it was being talked about, and then that's just sort of pointless. I don't know if it ended up all that worse than the current situation. I think there would probably have been a sort of rebel Halifax team set up that would have probably got quite a lot of support. I guess it would have been a bit similar to Huddersfield, Sheffield, where Sheffield Eagles came back. But I think it could have. I mean, to me, the ideal thing would have had a Bradfax team playing in a brand new stadium in Shelf or similar, and then you'd have had a Bradford's team playing in the Championship and a Halifax, Halifax team as well. So maybe them at Fromall or the Shay and Horseful or somewhere like that. And so those absolute diehards who are like, oh, never going to watch this team. Well, they'd have had a team to carry on following, and then the Bradfax team could have been that counterweight to Leeds. Could have been that powerhouse that we know we know West Yorkshire needs it. I don't think Huddersfield have provided it. I think it's hurt Super League that there's basically Leeds and that's it in West Yorkshire, despite it being it being one of the heartlands of the sport. So yeah, that's my cop out answer.
Diplomacy at its finest there.
Yeah. Gone for the diplomacy.
I just need to wash my ears out after hearing Bradfax 3 times.
Bradfax.
Oh, that's just awful. But I think you may be right what you're saying. Simply because Bradford's such a big city and Halifax is, although it's a big town, it's still a town, and I think he would have swallowed it up. And Odsal, the massive ball that it is would have more potential for it there. Thrummall was falling to bits at that point, and he couldn't really expand on that. So yeah, and we've got the thing that I've just seen Rick right on his notepad there. I won't read it right exactly what it said. Common denominator between the two clubs is a certain Nigel Wood.
Well, yeah.
Andrew has views on Nigel, doesn't he?
We'd need another episode to talk about Andrew's views on Nigel Wood. And to be fair, I think a lot of Halifax fans would be incredibly interested to hear them, really.
I think that coffin would have been made for him if it were nowadays, wouldn't it?
I was going to suggest that if they merged Bradford and Halifax in '95, then maybe Nigel could have been made to be Bullman. That would have been. He would have been perfect for that role.
Best place for him, isn't it?
But yeah, I've had this conversation with a few people over the years, and like I said, wouldn't it have been great to have like success in the '90s and have Bullmania and the titles and that? And I just thought, nah. The only thing I'd change, it wouldn't be called bloody Blue Sox, but. Hey ho, that's another story. We are the Panthers now. In fact, we've got another nickname at long last. But yeah, the merger came and went, and as I said, we talked off air, but we'll get into it on air. The first game that I remember, Halifax and Bradford was in Odsal, the last home game of Bradford's season, where it was fair to say that we spoiled the party. They had the celebrations there. Unbeaten.
They had the open top bus ready to go. Bullman dropping in, parachuting in with the ball, didn't
Bullman turn up in a helicopter?
In a helicopter, yep. And I thought this is just crazy. When I was actually stood in the Bradford end that game because my dad worked in Bradford, and he used to get shock horror. He used to get a load of free tickets, and it used to be in the Bradford end, and I was surrounded. I would have been just turning 9 at the time, and I weren't that bothered about a mascot coming out of a helicopter, but I saw about 40-year-old men suddenly stand there and go, "Oh my God, look, it's Bullman!" I'm like, right, okay, something's very, very strange.
I mean, it was my first ever game. It was my 6th birthday, and my dad took me finally when you start to understand the game a bit more. And he always tells me these tales about that day, because I do remember a lot of it. Obviously, I remember like the interception that I'm sure we'll come on to, but you could sort of got the feeling that Bradford were like, oh, well, we've been unbeaten at home all year. It's only little old Halifax, and all the things that were going on pre-game. And you saw the Fax players just growing inch each, thinking, we're not going to let lie down and have his bellies tickled here. But I remember they announced it with my birthday, and Halifax fan Rick Farrell, it's his birthday, 6 today, and all the Bradford fans booed me. So much booing a 6-year-old on his birthday. You absolutely boo. But yeah, and it went on to be an absolute classic game. But what a game for your first ever live game of rugby league, to see a last-minute drop goal with his wrong foot to win it. And I just remember my dad sort of looking at my mum going, "You're taking the kid home," and running around with fans and be like, "Partying tonight,"
That's mad. Yeah, it just occurred to me every Super League match between Bradford and Halifax for the first 3 years was a classic. Yeah. Like thinking about it, like so the from all game that year was like 22-20 to us. You won at ours. The next year, both games were tight, and then 98 as well. I think you won it in the last minute. So yeah, there was something about that fixture. There's no two ways about it.
They all had incidents as well, didn't they? I remember 97. Kelvin Skerritt broke his arm after about 30 seconds off
on Steve McNamara's head.
Is it Steve McNamara?
He's trying to stiff arm Steve. I've never
Kelvin
forgotten.
Skerritt stiff arming someone, never.
No, it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get on to that 97 game. Let's give you some good times here, Andrew, because it was a bonkers game, and again, like. I weren't at that. I was on holiday at the time. I can't remember exactly where I were, but we used to go on caravan holidays. It was the 90s. And I listened.
Just say Butlins. Everyone knows what you mean.
To wear Butlins. My dad didn't want to be mixed with riff raff at Butlins kind of thing. And but yeah, I listened to it on radio, and obviously we're 26-6 up. And I thought, right, I'm not listening to this anymore. I'm going out to play. And then I went out and played football. So it came back. Mum and dad were absolutely good, saying, "Oh, we've lost." And I was like, "What? How have we lost? How have we lost that?"
Talking about like taunting and the way that the derby's going with that ceremony when he sort of showed in the ball when he was
Danny Peacock,
head. And again, you just saw the Bulls players grow at halftime, thinking these are taking the piss out of us here, and we're not having it. So I do love that bit of niggle that goes on between the two clubs. I think it adds so much more to the contest. You saw the way that the Bulls players celebrated when they beat us in the game earlier this year, and when they thought they'd beat us in the cup quarter final, and then obviously the rest is history. We'll come on to that, but I love the little bit of niggle that goes underneath the skin. It adds that little bit. It shows that the players care about it as much as the fans do in the stands.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but the game is an absolute classic. It's just a shame that we were on the other end of it. But we're big to realise it was an almighty comeback, an absolute classic game there. Did you think at halftime that you would have any way back into that game, Andrew, at all?
Well, it's funny you should mention halftime. So what happened was, at the time, I was actually a member of the Blue Sox bunch because you used to.
Bradford fan trying to.
I remember the Blue Sox bunch because it cost the same to get into a Bradford, like obviously as an away fan, as it did to have a season ticket for Halifax all year, and I at the time, I didn't have. I didn't have anything better to do than go watch as much rugby league as possible. So I'd be watching, if Bulls played on Friday, then I'd go along with like Goz and some other mates to watch. But obviously for that match, I went and stood with the Bradford fans. Half time came. Goz and our other teammates come and find me in the Bradford end to take the piss out of me. You're not doing so well, are you? And I was like, well, I said, oh, well, it's only half time. And they just laughed, which was fair enough because it looked for all the world dead and buried. For me, that was when Jimmy Lowe's won Man of Steel, basically. He certainly took a grip on that. And a lot of things we got some decent bounces. Things went our way. That's a forgotten player. I think people need to remember how good a player Stuart Spruce was. I think he was classic, like honest, decent, sort of Super League, early days of Super League player. He had a stormer as well, and it just came together. And yeah, for once we were on the right end of it rather than wide to west and all the other tragedy, Millennium Tragic and all the other.
Don't play the woe is me card with all the trophies. Don't you dare, Andrew Foster. Don't you dare. You can have your bloody wide to west and wide to Renoff and all that sort of stuff. You've won all these trophies, so I'm not having that.
No.
And just to complete that story, guess who pops up at full time? Guess who pops up at full time? Bumped into him.
They won the league that year of the game that we're talking about.
Exactly.
And he rang me up after the game, my mum's landline, just to take the piss.
90s.
That was brilliant. His mum said, "Oh no, sorry, Andrew, he's gone to bed." I was like, "It's 8 o'clock. It's still light."
I was only 16.
James. But yeah, it was an absolute classic game, and that was the last Bradford Halifax game at Thrum Hall, wasn't it? So, what a way to bring the old lady down. But we did 98 was a mental season by any stretch of the imagination. I just couldn't believe it that my all-time rugby hero, Sean Edwards, decided to go and play for bloody Bradford, and seeing him in a Bradford shirt was just like, that is just unbelievably awful. But then that May afternoon at Odsal was just quality,
because he was overtaken in that game by my all-time hero, Gavin Clinch. Talk about bringing over someone that no one had ever heard of, and went on to, I mean, he for me, if Yestin Harris hadn't been as good as he was that year, Clinch was man of steel, because you take one man out of a team and he just absolutely dominated that league all year. Wigan aside, we were a better side than Leeds that year. We probably would have made the grand final if it weren't for Yestin Harris. So but yeah, going back to the two Bradford games that year, the one at Odsal, I think Bouvin scored in the corner, and we had a good celebration that time. But
and Simon Baldwin took the piss with a cheeky drop goal at the end. Love that. But yeah, it was absolutely brilliant memories. Obviously, we've had Andrew waxing lyrical about Bradford there. What were your memories of 98, James?
98, yeah. I think that Odsal game was brilliant. I think massive Halifax turnout from memory. And I also remember a lot of Halifax going around Odsal roundabout, tooting their horns after the game. Just going round and round in circles.
I love it.
But yeah, I think there's 16,000 there that day
that's
as well.
Right.
Some huge crowds for that. And then the Shea game, Gibbo, I remember, scored from about halfway. And also, I think our chief exec at the time had failed to get the new everyone to say, the new stand will be open, it'll be open. And then on the day, it wasn't. And I remember Eddie Hemmings sort of having a bit of a meltdown on Sky.
Yeah, I loved it.
Should be open. and blaming Cordydale Council, which, whether it's their fault or the chief execs, is debatable. But yeah, that was a good game as well.
But I remember all the Bradford fans, that tiny little stand where the stand was. There were about 12, 15 deep back there, because they were going to stand in South Stand. But yeah, absolutely mental.
It was like being on a speedway track for them. They'll be right at home, won't they? So.
Love it. But yeah, I remember Gibbo was one. You mentioned classy fullbacks there, Andrew. Gibbo was arguably one of the fullbacks. You mentioned Yestin Harris. I think Gibbo ran him close second for being one of the best fullbacks in that year. He's got an absolute classic try that year. And again, Bradford, they flat to deceive. They managed to get into the playoffs, and we thought that we'd be playing you again, but on that Graham Bradley getting sent off in his last game.
Oh, sure. That's a very murky incident. I think everyone's drawn a veil over. So Bradley didn't get banned for the offence that he was sent off for. Like, to me, it looked like he dropped the elbow on someone, but Cummins sent him off, and Bradley's been pretty clear that he thinks there was a bit of straws settling going on there. To be honest, we were nowhere near as good as Saints at that point. I don't know quite what happened that season, why it all went so pear-shaped as it did. But yeah, we were just in between the sort of 97 team and then the 99 team where Henry Paul came across, and it started sort of coming together with the young players like Jamie Peacock, Fielden, Deacon, etc. So a bit of a transitional season for us, but coincided with a very good season for Halifax.
Yeah. And then the following season, we'll slightly brush over that because that were two losses again. But I just want to mention the game at Odsall.
That is the most miserable experience of watching rugby league I've ever had in my life.
I was working in the pub that night.
Nowhere you can escape the rain. I think we played in that orange kit, which is where the the sort of hoodoo that we had of not being able to win in orange kits, even though we got one a few years. But the one thing I remember about that game was it was so muddy that at halftime, Bradford went in and changed their shirts. So they came out at halftime. And that was the only way you could tell who the hell were playing on opposite sides. Because we were just all basically mud-coloured kits then, and Bradford were in white still. So I don't know what to be in Hilda after that game.
No. No, but again, massive crowd there. Also, that's when you could
even
really
in the wet
crowds, and it was although it were absolutely pissing it down. And I remember that you had a mascot called Molecule Man.
Allied Colloids.
And he decided to spray Super Soaker water pistol into the crowd. And it's like, we're absolutely soaking. What are you doing?
I think Andrew hit the nail on it. That's when they started to see the rise of what would then go on to become a very good Bradford side with the fearsome foursome or whatever they called that.
Awesome foursome.
Stuart Fielden scored a pretty amazing try in that game where he pretty much hydrofoiled over from 15 yards out. It's quite funny watch. I think Mick Gledhill's put it on Facebook.
None of us follow Bradford on Facebook though, so
I don't want to see Stuart Fielden score anyway.
It was quite weird, wasn't it? Because that sort of coincided. We had such a good year in '98 that Wigan then came and ripped the heart and lungs out of our squad, and Bradford sort of was on the up. So you get these sort of ebbs and flows, and we've seen that when we've been in the Championship as well, haven't we? That as they've risen, we've fallen. As we've risen, they've fallen. So there seems to be a lot of sort of patterns in the way that. To say that the two clubs are so close together, they're sort of intrinsically linked within folklore, so to speak.
Yeah, you could say that. We were always there and thereabouts. Bradford were Bradford; they were always at the top. But we knew we could get there in one-off games and stuff. We might not necessarily have the consistency that Bradford had because you had an awesome squad and you had strength in depth. Whereas after '99, you just say because that's when we had the CVA and all that sort of stuff. SOS Save Our Socks, remember that one? And Bradford just played from strength to strength. We invested in youth, and that's where we wanted to go forward. So, and we'll briefly touch on the 2000 just before.
We have to,
because of two words: Hobson's knees. If there's ever one player remember from one incident, that is that Andy Hobson, Robbie Paul's ribs in that tackle.
And did it in front of Ganson as well, of all people. One day, I think
he didn't get sent off for doing Robbie Paul.
No, he didn't.
Got sent off about 3 minutes later.
He did it again, didn't he?
Again,
Robbie went off wheezing like that, and then he came out. I don't think the second one was half as bad as the first one, but
not at all. But I think he had previous in that game.
Great game though, that. And then the second game, didn't they? A few weeks later, where he scored. I think in front of the South Stand as well.
Yeah. Won that the game where I think it was 20-all draw because didn't we go down to 11 men? I think Rowley got sin-binned as well.
Yeah.
And it was Daryl Cardis that nailed a last-minute penalty. And I always remember that. We are always going to go into a break very, very shortly. But again, remember the two sets of fans react differently. Bradford fans absolutely hated the fact that they drew with little old Halifax. And Halifax fans were over the moon like, we've got to draw against Bradford. We've got to draw. It just shows how kind of far away we were both at that point. Bradford was expected to win every single game, whereas we were just wanting to pick up a single point against them. But those were great days there. Right, we're just gonna have a little bit of a break, wet our whistles, and then we will see you on the other side for more Bradford Halifax memories. Talking Facts of Life, woo! Hello, welcome to the second part of Talking the Facts of Life, proud sponsored by Clips Energy and Delivery. We are having a Halifax v Bradford derby special, traditional podcast, reminiscing about the good/bad old days of derby games when there were lots of different results in there. We just got to the 21st century with our guest, Mr. James Gosling, who is a Halifax fan. Come on, way! And Mr. Andrew Foster, who is unfortunately a Bradford fan. He's a Northern fan, so we'll let him off. He's not taking him by Bullmania and all that stuff. But yes, we got to the just after 2000. Now, this is where it gets a little bit bad for us because this is where we enter the lean period when Bradford moved to Valley Parade and become absolute dominant in Super League, and this is where we slowly start to go downhill, really. Valley Parade, bit of a funny old ground, really. I think the first year we played there, they shoved us in that tiny little stand behind the sticks, and which wasn't great for seeing. And I think we got absolutely hammered on. We got hammered on Sky, absolutely hammered. I remember them bigging us up because obviously we talked about the 20-all draw from 2000, and they've made a right big deal of it. So it's a great derby, it's gonna be a real close game. No. Not at all. Absolutely awful. But then that's when you were really hitting your prime, Andrew. The awesome foursome. And I think you might have been world champions that year, maybe, or in the spring afterwards.
It was, so it was the spring afterwards. I mean, there was actually that cup match that was hyped up because it was at the Shea 2001.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah, and it was on BBC. And I didn't, I remember watching. I was at university by that point. I remember watching that. I'd have taken a 1-point win if you'd offered it to me before the game, and it didn't go like that. It was, it was a bit of a sort of chastening result, and that was based. I don't know. Gosl, correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. We said first 5 years of Super League, Bradford Halifax matches were tight, even though Bradford were generally higher in the league. From 2001 onwards till you guys going out the league, they weren't. I can't remember a close one. I could be wrong.
That's a fair assessment, I must say. Unfortunately,
it's factual.
Yeah. Yeah. Facts and damn facts and statistics. You're absolutely right there, Andrew. That's when, let's say, you were going further and further up, and we were slipping down. Like, let's say, you had Henry and Robbie Paul at halfback. You had the awesome foursome. You had Michael Withers coming into his own at fullback. Vi Corner and then Vi Nicolo. Yeah. Just internationals all over the place. The closest game I can remember in that time frame was it was in 2002, and it was when we played at the Shea, and I remember Vi Nicolo. Again, I weren't there. What is it about me and my family having bloody holidays around Halifax Bradford games? I soon put pay to that. And Vi Nicolo, because it was, I think that were on Sky as well. I seen
first season, yeah.
Yeah, and he had an absolute nightmare. I remember putting loads of balls
kicking it behind him.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have been allowed.
But yeah, I think that was the only time we really got close to him, James, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's not many of that 2 or 3 years that stand out, to be honest. That Vi Nicolo game down the Shea, that's probably the closest. 2003, I think, I've erased the games because I imagine we got stuffed. So, like most games that year. But not as Andrew says, compare the start of Super League first 2 or 3 years to the back end. It's a bit depressing, really. So, we might want to skip on to the.
Do you know what? You've read our mind. You've read our mind, James. We're going to press fast forward. Go on, Andrew.
We didn't play, did we? We didn't get you in the cup.
No.
Anything till 2011.
Next time we played in 2011. That was the next time. So it was a good 8 years until we played again. And I still think that's a missed opportunity for us. I still think we could have
should have won.
Yeah. But I've had friends who said that Bradford had another couple of gears to go into.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
I don't think they did.
Not that Bradford team.
I remember that game as the introduction to us of Elliot Whitehead. I thought he had an outstanding game.
He's great. Yeah.
But and obviously Danny Jones played in that game. Scored a well worked try. But that was because we just won the championship that year. We won the grand final in the most boring game of rugby you'll ever see. Firmly in cheek there. And then our top try scorer that year, Shad Royston, made that. That move over to the dark side. You just signed one of the form fullbacks in the country and decided to play him at centre for some reason. That it was so strange seeing Shad in a Bradford shirt. What
there aren't many players that have done that, Halifax to Bradford, Bradford to Halifax for a long time, especially around that period. So to take someone who was so instrumental in our attack for that fantastic year we had before, I don't think many people begrudged him because he'd done everything he could have done with us at that point. Yeah. It was just like, does it have to be them? It could be anybody else but them. Go to Wakefield, go to Salford, go anywhere but Bradford. But it was a great game on it. I loved Frankie's try when he scored. I think the Bulls fans were all in the south stand, sort of down the bottom end at that point, and he gave him a quick salute as he went past. But I agree with you, a totally missed opportunity. And then I think that sort of was the beginning of Bradford's sort of decline, as ours was around the 2000s. It took a few years for us to drop out of the league. I think that's when Bradford's, the year after was when the money troubles started, and that's when you started to slip down, wasn't it? So
I believe Andrew tells better than both. But what were your memories around that
time? It didn't get any better. I mean, so from a Bradford point of view, 2010, start of 2010 season was the last time where it looked decent. We beat Wigan, we drew with Leeds, we had Burgess and Menzies, hence the shirt, and Orford was still playing for us at that point. And then he got injured and then took his bat home. We lost something like 12 on the bounce, and McNamara left, whether he resigned or sacked wasn't quite clear. And that was the start of circling the plug hole, really. It was funny, was that, Matt? Me and did you stand with us for that cup match, Joss? We actually came up.
He knows better than that.
So we came up for that game because it was the first Bradford Halifax match for years. Two Aussie mates of ours, Tim and Troy, came along, who were both big Brisbane Broncos fans. And they absolutely loved it. They loved the atmosphere. But they were, typical Aussies taking the piss out of us, saying, English Rugby League, look at this, 80 points in 80 minutes, 44-36, which is quite ironic, given that now Brisbane Broncos get sent for 80 points most weeks. So the wheel has finally turned, and even Brisbane are having their time in the barrel. So it does.
And look at our defence now, 6 points a game, and Brisbane are 46.
Exactly. Yes, James, love that. But it was the beginning of the end of Bradford's Super League attendance, shall we say, and they dropped down into the better league, the Championship, in 2015, where we had a couple of ding-dong battles. I think we played at Odsal first, and then
that was Good Friday.
Good Friday at Odsal. And again, most people thought Bradford would easily win the leagues. Didn't he stay full time as well when you dropped down?
Yeah, so they stay full. I think they lost first game of the season at Lee.
Yeah.
And then, hang on, getting this right. So that first season down was Super 8s, wasn't it? Yeah. So we were always second to at that point. Well, it was a bit like we got this year with Feven to lose, that Bradford and Lee basically won every week, apart from when they were playing each other. But the difference was that you had the middle 8s at the end of it. Did Fax get into that as well? Yeah,
we certainly did.
Yeah,
James.
Hang on. Yeah, I remember that.
Tell us about how we got into the middle 8s then, James. Go on.
Well, we had a few games that year. I mean, the big one stands out is they get first one down the the Shea, wasn't it? A big crowd. And I think it's Stevie T saying Marshall didn't often get fired up before games. He said that game he was bouncing off the walls and getting them all fired up. I think it's interesting also. I think you might have done an interview where basically Danny Addy takes a dump in his pants because he thinks Dave Manning's about to knock 7 shades of shit and lets the ball bounce along and Tyro picks it up. The other thing is like straight off the kickoff, Richard Moore absolutely kills a Bradford player, and Richard Moore was brilliant, but straight, if you watch the highlights, doesn't stop and just carries on like a cartoon character straight through a Bradford player to batter him. And also in the middle eights, we also have that stuff in at Odsal where Scott Morrell turned into Wally Lewis and just bossed him for an afternoon.
The Driglinson Wally Lewis.
I mean, he always played well. I always thought he was a massive asset in those games anyway, in terms of winding the team up and also that getting him around the pitch, which player Bradford often didn't have in those years. It was often my sense he got us home. But yeah, that afternoon, I watched on Sky. He was brilliant that day, but he was good in all the games, I thought, Morrell, the derby games.
Just a
I
big
wonder
game
if that's
player
why we signed Danny Brough, actually. The fact that Morrell had found us out repeatedly. I wonder if that made John Keir say, right, even though Danny Brough is older than God, he'll have to, we need someone who can do that job.
Yeah. No, that's why you asked to be if we were in the Super 8s or Middle 8s, sorry, Andrew, because of that absolute high he took at Odsal. That's why you raised that from memory.
I loved about that season, I think with the first game back after 17 years we'd not played each other, was at Odsal on Good Friday. It were a night game, and we were winning at half time. Excuse me, and the Fax fans the whole way through half time kept this chant going. I don't know if you remember, all the way through. And the second that the boys came back out, they were, oh, hey. And it was just like, that's the sort of games we've been waiting for years. Yeah, we'd had some ding-dong battles with Lee, Fev, obviously, but nothing ever beat the atmospheres, like I keep saying, in those Bradford-Halifax games. So even though we lost, and, they sort of came back and showed the class in the end, I think Gaskell had a really good game that day. Just the atmosphere and what it meant to people that hadn't been to games for all these years were like, oh, I'll go to a Fax Bulls derby because they know what it means to everyone and they know that you're going to get a proper atmosphere and a proper game of rugby.
Yeah, Gaskell was good in that Blackpool game as well that year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Both games he was very good, was Gaskell.
I wonder, it makes me wonder what would have happened if we'd had middle eights this year. So if you had Bradford and Halifax, Toulouse and Fev, versus who's the bottom four at the moment? Lee, Salford, Huddersfield, and maybe Wakefield.
Yeah, very interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah,
would have been. Maybe once it's a bad concept after all. Maybe
I liked the eights. I thought they were a good concept.
Yeah,
certainly for us, I thought it was great for Halifax.
The thing that
doesn't work for everyone, does it?
Yeah, the thing that stuffed it, they'd never like the Super League. The Super 8s bit was crap. Because most of the time the top four was obvious before it even started. And of all people, Marwan Kukash had the right idea, like a broken clock. He was absolutely right. They should have saved the 4th place in the Super League playoffs for the team that had the best performance in the 8s. Yeah. So even if you were sort of some way beyond, the 4th place team doesn't really, have a divine right to have a pop at the Super League title. So if there's a team, if there'd been a team in the top, one year Huddersfield were hopeless in the first half, but were really pretty decent in the second half and in the 8s, but still couldn't make it into the top 4. If you'd have said, right, whoever's the best performing team outside the top 3 in these 8s gets up, then you'd have had much more meaningful games, and we could have carried on with the middle 8s, which were good. I think it was a Nigel Wood idea as far as I know. So Like,
And you're admitting it. Wow.
Kudos to Nigel. Well done, Nigel. Hope you're listening.
Hang on. This is being recorded. Let's clip that up and send it to him. Andrew Foster saying, kudos to Nigel Wood.
2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up.
Oh, dear. But no, definitely meaningful matches between us and Bradford, for sure. Yeah, and that Steve Tyler interception try started off. How many did we win in a row? Was it 7 in a row? We won
It was
6?
a lot of games.
Yeah, we won for the next few years. Sorry, Andrew, this is going to be painful for you,
no. It's only true.
But yeah, I think it was and again, it certainly for 2016, we both flattered to deceive. I think we both played in the Championship Shield that year, didn't we? Yeah, we both missed the middle eight. So even though there were 2 wins for us, they mattered not really. But 2017 was a good year. It was a good year for us.
Great.
We beat Bradford again on Good Friday at Odsall, and then I think we beat him at the Shea as well.
We
didn't
certainly did. Yeah.
The
week before we went to Toulouse.
It was part of our kind of 4 cup finals there, where we needed to win there. My memory escapes me a little bit on that one because, but mind you, I was drunk for about 4 weeks. But yeah, I'm gonna skip on a little bit to the Bash in 2019. Well, just let's go to 2019 as a whole.
Yeah,
because
great season.
We are, well, it must have been for you, Andrew, because I say you beat Leeds in your cup final. I mean, 6th round of.
I genuinely I can tell you honestly, I got more pleasure from that match than any of the grand finals because I was texting. I was texting Gos and some other mates during it, partly to just sort of stop myself from hoping that it was going to happen. Like all the way through, I thought, well, Leeds will just score a couple of breakaways and that's it, and it's over. Like surely not all the way through. And I guess that is that's beauty of rugby league, isn't it? That these things can happen. And the only reason we were there, it sort of gets forgotten. We actually beat Featherstone of all teams in Golden Point in the
you did
the round before, having scored 4 tries in the last 10 minutes to tie it up, and then Jordan Lilly kicks a drop goal. So yeah, no, it was an amazing run, and then it was a quarter final, wasn't it?
I love the fact we've totally brushed over the fact they got relegated to a league below us as well.
That's got nothing to do with Halifax, though.
There was the fantastic game in pre-season where we went and they unfurled the banner saying, always in your shadow, you've got 12 months to think about that now.
Yeah. But no.
Which again, I love the niggle. I love the little rivalry.
Yeah. We didn't even win League One. That's the other thing.
Exactly. York and Connor Robinson reigned on
our nemesis, York. Funny old season that. But yeah, no, we skipped over. We 3 great games in that season against Halifax, right? No, maybe 4.
We had 4 games. One was we won at Odsall, which was terrible after.
Yeah.
We were on that big losing streak.
It was kind of like after the Lord Mayor's Parade, wasn't it? It was just like it meant nothing really. It was a bit meaningless really. But we'll go to the Bash first because again, a wonderful game of rugby league. Yeah. Again, it was part of me saying it's a shame someone had to lose, but that's just absolute bollocks.
But that will be lies. Yeah,
that's just absolute bollocks. Especially after Fogging Johnson's try and who was the other one?
Sharpie's got disallowed.
Yeah, Sharpie's got disallowed, and then I still don't think Dalton Grant got that ball down either. To be honest with you, but hey ho, it was again having cameras at a game and no video ref. Who thought of that idea? But again, it's one of those where we in the last 10 or so years we've managed to come from behind against Bradford, kind of like what Bradford did in '97. I thought Bradford would win that game easily. All Bradford fans were singing the victory song, like, ooh, and then all of a sudden, up pops Bobby Fairbank with a lovely pass to QLT and Elliot Morris going over, and then you mentioned Scott Morrell before, cheeky little 1-pointer to make it all right, and then let's go to the quarterfinal, shall we? And Let's go to the quarterfinal.
Absolutely.
Well, what I will say is that it was, and I will give you this, Andrew. It was a great spectacle watch because you say, the way that Bradford have gone down, and since Bradford went down, Leeds have taken their place and been utterly dominant in Super League for that time. And you were the ranked outsiders, and I don't think anyone really expected Bradford to win that game. It was a fairy tale. It was a brilliant spectacle there, but because of that, the coverage for the Bradford Halifax game was all Bradford. It was let the fairy tale continue and all this sort of stuff, completely forgetting us that we knocked out London in previous round, and obviously we'd beaten you in the bash. And I didn't see that at the time because we were at the ground there. But again, to and froing of a game, and what a finish! What a finish!
I were doing a lot of club work then, and I spoke to the lads, and they were saying we were never going to lose that game. I'm like, really? Because you had me bloody convinced about 5 minutes from the end, you know. But they were so fired up, and they were like, "We're having these today." They said the second that they saw the Bulls sort of having their celebration after the Leeds game, they were all the lads of the Fax team were out together on Ben Kay's stag do, watching it in pub, and they were like, nothing else matters now. And that probably showed in our league form just going absolutely down the Swanee. But they were like, nothing else matters now. We are having these in that next game. And as it turned out, like I said, they left it late, but they did.
Yeah. I remember when, was it Wildy who scored that try?
Yeah. Leroy,
all around me, everyone was going, that's it, we've lost.
I was ready to have Samaritans on for me.
I didn't think it was.
And I was one of the very few that said, there's loads of times left. There's loads of time left. This game's not, there's no score in this game. And I remember the podcast that we did with Tyra, he was behind the post. He was the worrier saying, oh my God, we're going to lose this. But then he said that both QLT and Woodburn all kind of said, no, this game ain't lost now. And what a try to win it. I still rank it as one of my top tries. I'm not being biased. It's just when it needed someone to come and take that game. He got man of the match and only played 19 minutes, did he, or something like that? Yeah. Absolutely bonkers there. What were your guys thought? James, what were you there?
Yeah. We gave Andrew a lift from the station. Not
I'm guessing he walked home afterwards, then he walked back after.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, part of me thinks we maybe should have won by more. Like, you look at Leroy's mistake was 6 points. Grixie, I think, can't remember, had a bit of a cock up, didn't he, on that high ball as well. So he scored that one good try, I think Will Mills scored. But other than that, like, there's a bit of a difference in class between the tries we scored and what they did. I thought we were good that day. I was never confident to even in the last 60 seconds. I think when they kicked off, just get on the ball, just play it out.
97, I just think of 97 because they've done it before. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. I don't think that year there was that much between the teams. Was the two fairly even teams? But I thought on the day we deserved to win just for that bit of class of Woody and QLT. I thought, but no, it was tense. Very tense. And then we got Saints. Then I remember we got Saints in the semi. Brilliant. That'll be 80 points. But,
well, that's the thing, that's my big sort of recollection on it. Because I was thinking one of the games from way back that we haven't talked about was the 1992 quarterfinal, Bradford Halifax, that Bradford won. I think we won it 10-6. Absolute ding dong from all. Tony Marchant got sent off in the first half, so Bradford really went some to hold out. But the reward for that was a semi-final against Wigan at Burnham Park, and we got absolutely humiliated. 71-10, like it's historic battering live on BBC. And fair play to we were a top division side. Only just nearly got relegated that year, but we were a top division side. So the fact was that Halifax actually proved that they deserved to win that quarter-final by going into the semi-final and really, sticking it up, Saints. And it could have been absolutely, any Super League versus Championship game has a potential to be a blowout. So yeah, you can only take your hat off and say, despite, Bradford did have their cup final in that Leeds match, and Halifax made their own sort of bit of history and put a marker down with what they did. So yeah, fair dues.
It weren't just any Super League team as well. It's the Saints team that then went on to win back-to-back grand finals and then a Challenge Cup this year. So
I still believe that we gave Warrington the blueprint to win the cup that year, because I'm being deadly serious for once. For once in this podcast, I am being deadly serious. I think because we got up in the faces so much in that first half, you look at the correlation between the way Warrington played Saints in the Wembley final in 2019. I think we gave them the blueprint there. So I think Halifax have got one hand on that cup in 2019. We've just not been given the credit for it there. Let's move forward to Sunday, shall we? Let's kind of wrap up towards the end. Let's look forward to Sunday, because 2020 was 2020. There's nothing to talk about there. We've touched upon the game earlier on in the year at Dewsbury. I'm so excited. I'd be excited anyway to go to a game without any sort of restrictions on there. But a Halifax Bradford game in hopefully the sunshine, where we've been starved of it for the last 18 months. You've made the trip up north for it, Andrew, so it's definitely a special occasion for yourself to come up for the dark side down south. What are your thoughts on Sunday, both for the game, and don't make any excuses that we've got no halfbacks kind of thing.
But we have got no halfbacks.
Yeah. Can you just give us a bit of the form book on Bradford? Your last 5 games, how you're looking, how you've been moving without your main talisman sort of out there.
But look, it's a bit mixed. Like, so they should have beaten Fev. Like, they really should have beaten Fev. Well, then we talk about the two teams being even. You should have beaten Fev. Like, sort of similar, really. I think it might be less than 5 games ago that they got hammered by Fev at their place. The thing about Bradford is they've got some really, good players in the mix. Like, I think Ant Walker. I think the off-field stuff with, the fact that he was sort of medically retired for so long and he's come back, you don't have to be a Bradford fan to take your hat off to that and say, it's brilliant that he's come back and re-established himself as a fantastic player. Yeah. But for the team, it's putting it together for 80 minutes. Like, I could see, I won't be surprised if we went toe to toe with Halifax for 60, 70 minutes, even got a lead up and then frittered it away. That's my gut feeling, natural pessimist like most rugby league fans. That's how I sort of feel the sort of story of the match might go. But I don't know. Like, there's a few rumours that Jordan Lilly might make an appearance, and he was. I thought that was like John Keir and Nigel owed Jordan Lilly massively, because if he hadn't taken the grip of that match against you at Dewsbury when he did, then Bradford's season is dead before it's even started. We'd have been battered by Sheffield and then lost at home to Halifax, and it would have all looked pretty ugly. So I think it'll be up to people like Jordan Lilly, Steve Crossley, Ant Walker, Eben Stir, Brandon Pickersgill to pull it out and give a lead and hopefully they do it for 80 minutes from my point of view.
$1 million question though, Andrew, who are going to be your 6 and 7 on the weekend?
Anyway, I mean, with the championship, you just don't know, do you? Dunning said that Joe Keys can't play HIA.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I won't. I genuinely don't know. We used to play Mike Forshaw at 6 when we were totally stuffed, and I wonder if they'll do something like that. like one of the forwards who's got that'd be pretty funny if it's Steve Crossley.
I love that. Imagine 2 halfback opposition of Steve Crossley and Scott Morrell. That would have been quality to see.
Heaviest halfback partnership in history. James, would you change a winning Fax side after what we've seen over the last 7 games?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Like whether you put like Connor Robinson, obviously in the squad last week, would you put him in for his first game since Fev in a derby with a big crowd? Not sure. You'd probably get looking at the way Grixie picks his team. I suspect he'll stick with what's got him this far, would be my guess. But it'd be a big call I would say, to change his pivots on our derby game. I think he'll stick with what he's got. It's a shame Amir Burrow played 5 minutes for Wigan last night. Like, why Lamb did that
Scandalous.
Seems bonkers, but it's good to see him obviously playing Super League, but he's been a revelation for us this year. Obviously Hewitt, I'm not sure we'll see Hewitt anytime soon. Obviously Gadwin, you discussed last week, so
yeah,
see, be interesting if he turns out for Fev this weekend. But I mean, on paper, I think we should be favourites. But like that dark, we should have won at Dewsbury. Right, we were favourites then and should have won. So you never know, derby game, what might happen. It's cool heads in it, I guess. That's what,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I think he'll go for Scott Griggs again, not just because he's his brother, but the 2 victories in 2019 that I mentioned. Scott Griggs were playing halfback in both of those games. So I think there's something in that. And he has been quite reticent to make any massive changes recently as Simon Griggs, really. Just bringing like the odd player in to kind of to bring fitness in. But who do you reckon is going to be the man? If Halifax are going to win, I'll say if, I won't say when. I don't want to tempt fate. Who's going to be the standout player? Who's going to make it the Halifax victory on Sunday?
I don't know. Could history strike twice? Would he?
Could do.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He's a sort of play. I know he's done it already. I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, but it's a sort of game where someone with a bit of class and that ability break a game open.
We've been saying for 8 weeks now, this is the game where Greg Worthington scores a hat trick because he hasn't got anywhere near scoring a try. And he's been saving it all for the Bulls derby at the Shea. So
it's going to be another left-hand break by a fax number 3, Halifax Bradford game to win the game. I'm certain it's going to happen, and I would absolutely Kevin Keegan it if it did happen. If it did happen, but yeah, I'm totally looking forward to it. Andrew, I'll come to you. If there's going to be any Bradford player that might do the business for you, obviously you got to have people stepping up. Who's it going to be for you?
I can just see Crossley trundling over one of those. You know, one of those where he just sort of falls, and the ball, it's like the point of the ball, it's the try line, and that's it. I could just see that. It's good. I think if Halifax win, it might be by quite a few. If Bradford win, it'll be tight. That's what I think.
Oh, don't spoil us. Don't tease us with such things. Halifax. It would be so strange because I genuinely can't remember Halifax comfortably beating Bradford apart from that game at Odsall in 2015. And even then, it was such a weird feeling because even when we got like 30 points up, we were kind of thinking, they're going to score. They're going to come back and do this because it's just so obviously Bradford. But yeah, I'm not happy with a favourites tag for Halifax. I've never been comfortable being a favourite, especially in a derby game. It's just, I don't want to even think about it. But fingers crossed, it should happen. And my man Greg Worthington, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. He's my man. He's my man. Rick, what are your final thoughts?
I'll go put my neck on the line and say it's a game for veterans at halfback, and this is where Scott Griggs will stand up, take the game by the scruff of the neck. We know Liam Harris has had a massive impact on sort of the end of games, but I think this is where Scott Griggs just has a masterclass in the sort of ilk of Scott Morrell and just totally takes this game over. I think I could see sort of Cav having quite a lot of luck with that link that they have on the left-hand side.
That left-hand side looks good.
But yeah, otherwise, like I say, it depends what the weather's like. I think the weather forecast is supposed to be diabolical. So,
really?
One of these. What I'm hoping for a repeat, but the opposite way around of that Odsall game where they have to stand there in the rain and only have they'll go 2-0 up and then we'll score 32 points and that'll be that. So I just hope it's a good game because I'm expecting a big crowd and everyone there, good atmosphere, and as we've seen with the promo vid and all that sort of stuff. I just hope everyone really gets on board and
they deserve a decent. They deserve a decent crowd, don't they? 7 in the spin. They made a bit of an effort on match day this week. They deserve. Crowds have been not been good across the sport, have they, recently? So fingers crossed everyone gets out, Bulls and Fax on Sunday. And I've had people saying coming down for the first. Well, they've not been able to come down, have they? But it's people saying they're going who don't normally go, which is great. So
exactly, there's hardly any excuse not to go. It's a Sunday 3:00 kickoff. You can pay on the gate. You don't have to pre-book online. There's stuff going out on the game. Yeah, second v third. We're on a 7-match winning streak. It's all tying up nicely for. Trying to elevate us even more. It's all tying up to be an absolute classic game, like we've talked about for the last 40 minutes or so. I've really enjoyed doing this, looking back at some really great memories of Derby days past. It's whetted my appetite for certain for this Sunday. I hope it's whetted your guys, both on the podcast here, but you guys watching. Thank you very much for joining us, Andrew. Thank you very much for entering the Lions Den. Thank you very much for entering the Lions Den. It's been a pleasure having you, and James, absolutely pleasure talking to you again. Rick, thank you very much as always, and for myself, thank you very much for watching. And as always, well, you won't join Andrew. Up the Fax Bulls!